Hello. Okay, everyone, we can hear each other. We've already tested that out. So we're coming today to just really help educate and give information about these medications that you're taking, and so that you can get the benefit of it. So I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Lanita Ellis, and I am the owner or the admin and the creator of this group. And I have been I'm a certified health and wellness coach and specializing in weight loss. And I've been since about 2013. I've been working with women to help them lose weight. So that's I've started this group just recently because originally I was really helping coaching with HCG, then came over to these new medications and that's one question I had for you: medication or peptide? Well, we'll get into that. Stephen, that was one of my questions.
Good question. Good question.
So awesome. So anyway, I wanted to introduce, this is Stephen and Ashley. And so Stephen, go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know what you do.
Absolutely. I'm Stephen Villagomez. I'm a clinical exercise physiologist with TellewellnessMD. I have 10 years experience in endocrinology before I went and started working with the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, NCAA. And I also have an academic appointment. I was a professor for 10 years and I still lecture at Columbia University here in New York City. I have been utilizing GLP-1s, the medication that we're going to talk about. It is a peptide, but the FDA has classified it as a medication, and that's a barrel of monkeys we are not going to talk about today. Nevertheless, the GLP-1s have been around for 15 years, and I've been utilizing them ever since, and we will dive into them shortly. Ashley?
Yep. I'm Ashley Suto, Director of Business Relations at TellewellnessMD. Been with the company for about 6 years now and kind of learned a lot about nutrient injections and peptide therapies throughout my time here, and find it very exciting. And I love helping our customers figure out how to get healthier and make it as easy as possible for them.
Wonderful.
Fantastic.
So Stephen, you want to just kind of jump right in with the...
Absolutely. So today we're going to have the onus or the emphasis is going to be on GLP-1s, and we're going to kind of turn it a little bit because there's a new one, Mounjaro, also known as Tirzepatide, which is slightly different. But a GLP-1 is a glucagon-like peptide. It's a medication it's used for managing type 2 diabetes, but now what we have seen is the weight loss with this. One thing that I want to talk about is the top benefits, obviously, but I want to make everybody very aware that these medications are being researched for a host of other things, including cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, addiction. So they're looking at these things with people that do not have these diseases yet. So we can see how useful and wide-ranging this medication or peptide is and what it could do. With that, I'm going to go in the top 3 benefits because they're the most honest and they're the most pertinent to what our discussions are going to be here for today. The first one is improved blood glucose control. That's where the diabetic medication comes into be. It reduces hemoglobin A1C, which is your longitudinal measure of carbohydrate metabolism. Everybody's had a finger stick of glucose, right? That's an immediate result. If we were to do that finger stick 90 days in a row and average it, that is our hemoglobin A1C. And we know that GLP-1s reduce this. When it reduces that, we reduce insulin, which comes to number 2, which is the weight loss. Everybody wants the weight loss. I've been on it on a low dose. It's a fantastic medication on multiple things for the weight loss, and we're going to really dive into that. And the one that is cardiovascular benefits. And why I'm saying that is the best way to get cardiovascular disease is by having diabetes. Now, we've known about this with metformin, which is the classic anti-diabetic medication, but we now know with GLP-1s, people that have diabetes that take a GLP-1 have a lower incidence of cardiovascular disease than the general public. Let me say that again because that's very, very important. People that have diabetes, which is the best way to obtain cardiovascular disease, when given this medication, have a lower incidence of cardiovascular events than the general public. So remember, top 3 reasons why we are here to talk about GLP-1s. 1, improved blood glucose control, right? 2, weight loss. And that's the one that we're really, really gonna like focus in on. And then 3 is the cardiovascular benefits. So with that, Lenita, I'm gonna keep going on, or so we know what like the top 3 reasons why we are looking at this medication. I think the next thing to do would be like, how does it work?
Right.
So the way that GLP-1s work is it slows gastric emptying, right? It stops our stomach from pouring into the intestines. What nobody comes to realize is when you're a type 2 diabetic, we have increased gastric emptying. When we are diabetic, our stomach empties quicker. When the stomach empties quicker, that means it's going to go from end to end quicker. So one thing that we don't realize with this is malabsorption.
Right.
So when our stomach empties quickly, we don't absorb what we ate. So it slows gastric emptying. And this is where we're going to tie into the side effects, but we will talk about that shortly. So with this, that's the main mechanism of action. It stops the stomach from emptying, and it changes the way our brain views food. I know Lenita and even in Ashley being part of this, it sounds crazy to take a shot and not to think about food for 2 days straight. It is, you are not used to it. You are, and those of you in the group that have taken this know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's why we're tying this into why it is so important to follow the program when you take a GLP-1. There are steps that must be taken. With that, I think this is a good time to shift gears on the do's and don'ts of GLP-1s.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to go over the top 5 do's and the top 5 don'ts, and I will go into them a little bit, but we're not going to get hunkered down in the weeds because obviously we want to answer some Q&A, and this is the first of many calls we're going to be having. So I'm giving you a blast of information. Number 1, when taking a GLP-1, you must have a protein-based first meal, no matter what. No. Here's some examples: Greek yogurt, eggs, protein shake, protein-based meal. Now, if you're not hungry at the end of the day, we do not care because you still need to eat that one protein-based meal. Now, Lenita, and I think, and Ashley, this is a very, very good. Why would we do that? The most important answer is don't want to lose muscle mass. That's what happens to people when we stop eating everything. The body will protect itself by not getting rid of body fat. It will get rid of what will use the body fat. We are a creature of survival. Think of the Stone Age, right?
Wait a minute, go over that again, because that's brilliant. That's something, and that's something I've not really ever heard before. So it, instead of dropping the body fat, it goes after because it wants to conserve that body fat. It goes after the muscle because the muscle's what burn.
In an evolutionary standpoint, if we ain't got nothing to eat, we're not going to use up the energy reserve, right?
Right.
We're going to use up what's going to use up the energy reserve.
So that's why, people that don't eat well on this end up losing so much muscle mass.
And then when they get off of it, they gain the 30 pounds plus another 10 or 15 friends that come with it.
Yep.
So number 2, you must supplement. You must supplement with a handful of things. Now, I'm not going to go too far into this, but the ones that we really, really think of are vitamin B12, vitamin D3, probiotics, fish oils, right? You need a host of things. You have to have a host of the micronutrients that you're not going to be consuming because you're not eating that much anymore.
Right.
That's not a problem. This is how we fix it. Number 3, you must exercise, no matter what. Now, we will talk about this in future calls on what does that look like. The key thing is you need to get up and move. Number 4, you must hydrate. Remember a question we're going to answer later on about constipation. You must hydrate. If you have a protein-based diet and you do not have enough water, when you consume protein and it gets digested, it pulls water from your body. And if you're dehydrated and there's no water, what do you think happens? There we go. And number 5, which is a very interesting one that we are going to bring up because we are going to have solutions for you, very, very detailed through TellewellnessMD, is you must be part of a community to share and listen. You do not know the validity, and what it actually does is to be able to share your experience, because I can guarantee in this group right here, ladies, a bunch of you have had the same thing go on, and you need to talk about what worked and what did not work.
Exactly.
Okay. Top 5, what you must do. Must have protein-based first meal. You must supplement. You must exercise. You must hydrate, and you must be part of a community. Seems very commonsensical, but that's at a premium these days. Moving on to the don'ts. You cannot not eat. There we go. Pretty easy on that one. You can't go 3 days without eating if you don't want to. You're going to have a Greek yogurt. You're going to have a protein shake. You've got to eat something. 2, you cannot not exercise. You're going to see how these kind of go hand in hand, people. Number 3, you cannot not supplement with micronutrients that you're going to need. This is an important one that we've tied into in this, and we're going to talk about this with questions. We Q&A'd everybody, so we're going to have some answers for this. You cannot increase the dose without a consultation, no matter how you want to. I've had this conversation multiple times with people. You will not do that. And number 5, you cannot become frustrated with slow weight loss, side effects. And the reason why I'm going to tell you this, because we are going to educate you why I just said, you cannot become frustrated with slow weight loss or side effects. You are in control of this, not the medication. And we will teach you what that means. So with that, I think that we have covered a lot of very, very basic topics on the do's and the don'ts. What is a GLP-1? In Lenita, and then I want to dive into questions, but I do want to talk about one thing, and this is what we're going to talk about. We have a GLP-1 like semaglutide, also known as Ozempic, right? So we're going to talk about the dosing of semaglutide or Ozempic, and we're also going to talk about the dosing of Mounjaro, also known as Tirzepatide. What are the differences? They're big, and what they are is GLP-1 is semaglutide. Tirzepatide is a GLP-1 and a GIP-1, so it's dual acting. That's why the dosing is different, because it's going to affect on 2 different playing fields. So you cannot compare apples to bananas when it comes to semaglutide and Tirzepatide. We will be including with this video the New England Journal of Medicine article showing you the pros and cons, the differences of taking semaglutide versus taking Tirzepatide, and what are the differences. And what I can tell you very quickly is that Tirzepatide is more effective at weight loss, and it reduces your hemoglobin A1C at a larger value, because everybody, it's dual acting. So you have to know the differences between this. It's a difference between a Ford and a Ferrari. And let's not think of the movie, that's a total different thing. It's, everyday cars. Okay, that is a very, very basic rundown. We're going to be diving into a whole lot more. Lenita, take it away.
So, I had a question with the dual acting. So what exactly does dual acting mean? Because, and in fact, GLP-1, you understand it with your verbiage because you're educated in this. So
yeah, I have a little bit of experience with this.
Exactly. So, but yeah, so GLP-1, and you explained what it actually meant, but if you can maybe break it down into simpler terms, and then the whole dual acting with Tirzepatide, I was really curious with that.
Absolutely. So a GLP-1 is a glucagon-like peptide. Glucagon is, we could go into this for days. It's just the way how our body processes sugar, right? Glucagon. And now it's glucoinsulinic. So it also affects insulin, which means we're looking at glucagon, which comes out of the HPT axis, a little P inside of our middle of our brain. And now glucoinsulinic will affect the beta cells on our insulin. So we're talking brain and now pancreas.
That's the difference of semaglutide and tirzepatide. One is just a glucagon. The other one has the insulin as well. Okay, see, that's really interesting to know. Can you just explain a peptide too, just so we understand what the difference between a peptide and medication? Is there a simple answer?
It really is not. It's kind of complicated, but I can give it to you very simply. A peptide is a long chain of amino acids.
Right.
Right. The FDA is a very, very unique creature. There's a lot of peptides that are not medications because of their structure, because they are not chemically made. They are a strand of amino acids. Branch chain amino acids, the supplement, branch chain amino acids, peptides, same thing. The FDA classifies them when they want to sell them to you for a lot of money. And I think everybody knows this by now.
Right. So like I know with, and I have to go back to HCG terms because that's just where
it's a peptide.
And that's where okay, so it's a hormone peptide, but it's the same.
So that's okay. Now I could see where we're going to dive down this. A peptide.
You don't have to here. I mean.
Oh, no. It's a very, very quick answer.
Okay.
Medication changes something, right? Metformin lowers your glucose by the way it interacts in your gut. A peptide is a signaling molecule, right?
Okay.
I take HCG because it acts like LH, luteinizing hormone, and FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, to tell my testes to produce testosterone. For women taking HCG, it signals the FSH, LH from the HPT axis to the ovaries to release eggs. It's a signal. So it's just saying, we need you to do this. Okay. We need you to do this. So that's why when we take these peptides, the glucagon-like peptides, and now the GIP, the glucoinsulinic peptides, it tells our brain and our pancreas, we need you to do what we want you to do instead of what you want to do. We need to change the signal.
So, and I know when the HCG went into drops, essentially it became, homeopathic, and which is really, there's no HCG in there except for a molecule. But what they would put in those drops would be amino acids, ones that would help with hunger, appetite suppressant, essentially amino acids. So
we don't want to get caught in the weeds on this one. But, the oral HCG, it's impossible.
Exactly.
It is impossible unless it's a very, very specific peptide. Then there's only a few on the market like dihexa, which we will get into on a later call. They're unable to make it through gastric juices. They just get torn apart. It's like, honestly, I don't know, getting a water balloon and running over it with a lawnmower. It's not going to make it no matter how you cut the cake.
So, and that's, one of the things I've always said with HCG, it has to be injected. It's like insulin. You can't take it orally. It has to go.
You could try, but it's just not going to, you're not going to get the results you're looking for.
It's not going to signal your body to do what it's supposed to do to get the results you're looking for. Excellent. Zach, I'm sorry we got off in the weeds, but I just
no.
Everyone understands.
They're good, tangible pieces that build this puzzle.
Right, exactly. So with that, I've got our questions from the group. Do we want to go there, or what? I know we
fire away, because we want to get as I'm talking you to the group.
Right.
Remember our next call, I want to go over a little bit more detail on this, because we will survey the crowd. And then what I want to do, I'm going to answer some questions right now. And on our next call, I want to talk to you individually in a community setting. Remember, number 5 of the dues, you got to be part of a community for this, and that way we can start, because there's a lot of you are going to have the same questions. You are, and that's why we can answer multiple people's questions all at once. And that's where we're really going to, get the most bang for our buck, as they say.
So real quick, before we do this, I just thought, Ashley, can you explain TellewellnessMD? I mean, because we haven't even done that. We all kind of represent this company. So can you just kind of give us an overview of what TellewellnessMD is?
Yes, TellewellnessMD is a telehealth company with a focus on preventing disease and weight management and anti-aging. So we're not your traditional telehealth company, as in you have a cold or the flu and you call us, and we won't prescribe medications in that sense. We focus on things like the Semaglutide, the Tirzepatide, dihexa, like Stephen mentioned, other peptide therapies and nutrient injections like B12 and things like that you can inject and administer yourself at home.
Perfect. And all through a doctor with legitimate prescriptions.
Yes, all from USA regulated pharmacies and physicians licensed in the US.
Perfect.
Yep.
I like telewellness. You could think of it as it's your doctor that you want to come and see when you're not sick, so you don't get sick.
Yes, perfect.
I love it. Well, that's the whole goal, is to more than lose weight. We want to live healthy lives. We want to, be active and function in this world and have our bodies do it in a way that's not, tearing us down, but building us up. So
100%.
What we back. Okay, so into the questions. Why does it take people so long to lose weight? Now, I've had people in the group that have, I think we might even have one in here that says that they've been on it for several months and they've not, or 6 weeks and no weight loss. So why does it take some people? Because there's others that is like, oh, I'm, 6 weeks in, and I've lost 30 pounds or whatever, so what's the difference?
That's a great question. And again, we're here to, from our experience, which is vast in this, there's one of two ways of looking at this. By taking a GLP-1 and after 6 weeks, you haven't lost any weight, it's one of two things. It's one, that you are not following any protocol, right? You're eating more, you're working out less, which I really don't think that could be possible with a GLP-1. It would have to be something along the lines where you need to go back to your provider, because it seems like perhaps that's not the medication that's being used currently. I would urge you to go back to your provider and make sure that you're looking at where you obtained this prescription to make sure it's from a pharmacy. Where's the lot number on it? Go back and trace where you got it, because in any medication like this, where we get it from, you could trace it from your mailbox all the way to where it was created.
Yeah. So making sure you have, and that it's potent, that's the other thing, because it does need to be refrigerated and it can lose potency. So that's the other, if it's been left out on the counter, that might affect it, correct?
100%. For everybody in the group, keep all your medications and supplements in the fridge, please. Just all of them.
Even MIC? I'm sorry, even lipotropics, because it says dark, dry place. So that I'm right along here.
Well, yeah, there are very few, but for the most part, if it comes in an orange tube, keep it in the fridge. Because again, you'd hope that most of your refrigerators don't have a light on, but
they actually do. And that's one thing, I've worked with, like I said, through the years, that's how to protect your product and keep it potent. And so that's huge.
Keep it cool, keep it cold, keep it in dark.
Yep. No light, no jiggling, and and cold. Okay. So, okay. That's just other people answering the questions. Sorry. I stopped taking semaglutide at 9 weeks and was exhausted. I experienced blurred vision from time to, I think I got them out of order. This was the blurred vision question. But anyway,
That's a good question, though, because we did actually research that. For those, if you do have blurred vision, the GLP-1s are actually been used to improve diabetic retinopathies. So it should be the opposite. That's where that's another thing of God, maybe go back to the provider, make sure you're taking what you're taking, because It actually, these are medications are designed to improve, not worsen, right? Nobody would take a blood pressure medication and be like, well, yep, today it's 200 over 120. Let's keep it going. You're like, no. That's not what's supposed to happen.
Great. Well, and then the exhaustion, the fatigue. I see a lot of people that just have a lot of fatigue. And so, but I think we had discussed that that's a lot of, if you're not fueling your body properly with the supplements and the protein.
Yeah, I was about to say, Lenita, you hit it on both. Remember, number one and number two of you cannot not eat and you cannot not take supplements. You have to, and you will mitigate a lot of the fatigue. Now, look, even I will indeed get tired after a few days because I'm very active, right? And there are days where it changes it's starting to change. It's also called BDNF, which we'll talk about later, which is brain derived nootropic factors. It changes, it's causing neuroplasticity in the brain, because if we're not really hungry, we don't need to be over consumed with food, right? I have other things to do, except, I'm not going to sit and be like, well, should I be thinking? No, I'm not thinking about food. So the thing is it helps mitigate when you are part of a program that takes these things into account and has answers for you. And that is, the fatigue can be mitigated with making sure that you're eating protein-based meals, that you're being hydrated, and that you're supplementing. By the way, the number one cause of late afternoon, daytime fatigue is not food. It is hydration. It is hydration by the end of that time of the day. And that's why you gotta be smart. Gotta be smart with the hydration.
I'm one of those. I have become much better. I know. I even have
I don't know,
my water too.
Yeah. Drink, everybody, drink.
But this is actually new to me, and I'm not young, but this makes so much sense through the years because I've dealt with chronic constipation my entire life, and I've never been a water drinker.
Let's go back into that just briefly, like we touched about it, everybody. Protein-based diets like keto, and we were talking about these things when you're eating a low carbohydrate diet, it's a little bit more emphasized on protein. By the way, when the future talks come, one thing that we will be talking about and providing information is, what is the proper protein intake for your weight and height?
Yes.
Because it's not what you think it is. I will tell you, it is a lot less. It is a lot less, and it has to do with how much you eat per gastric empty. So, food for thought later. 2, protein-based meals require water, because when protein gets into the intestines, the small intestine and then the large intestines, it will pull water out of the interstitial fluid. If you are dehydrated, it will stop, which causes constipation.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if you ain't got water, honey, it's not going anywhere. That's just the bottom line.
So, and that was my next question. Why do we get constipated? So there's that one taking, and then if you take something, you get the opposite. Okay. So and I understand this because, like I said, this has been a challenge I've lived with my entire life. And so, and for me, magnesium is my very best friend to keep me
100%
regular. I don't want to do the smooth tea. The sienna is not good for my intestines. And so I do, and it is a fine line. But I also have inflammatory bowel disease. So sometimes it just doesn't, it has nothing to do with any of that. But
magnesium is something that should be, if you are prone to constipation on these things, that is one of the number 3, number 2, you must supplement.
Yeah.
That's it. That's his bottom line.
And so I know sometimes, if I'm going regular, it's like, I think it's around 800 milligrams for me. And so if I'm having a hard time, I'll bump it up, and then, or no, it's 400, and then I'll bump it up to 800, and it may have the opposite effect, but it's
something that we could discuss in the future with the group, because it's an N of 1. And for those of you that are not familiar with statistics, whenever you have a study, N is how many people that were in the study. When we do this, it's N of one. We're all our own study. And what works for Lanita may not work for you.
Right.
What may work for Ashley will not work for you. Everybody needs to do something that's tailored to them, and we will make sure that we handle throughout that process.
Awesome. So next one. Now this one's really interesting. And I, because being in this group and having it now for about 6 weeks, 2 months, dosage. People's dosages are all over the place. Now you did mention that Tirzepatide Mounjaro is different than Semaglutide, and whatever the Semaglutide one is.
That's correct, because it's dual acting. It's different dosing. It's different dosing.
So here is, what is the highest dose for Mounjaro, and should or could a person take? And they said that they're 6 weeks on with no weight loss, and they're taking 2.5.
2.5. That's we'd have to, it's definitely not 2.5 units, because that would be way too low. 2.5 milligrams or 2.5 mLs. And let's back this with, let's look at the pharmacies that we utilize. So we have a concrete barrier. 2.5 mLs with one pharmacy would be 2.5 months worth of medication in one shot. So 2.5 months worth of medication screams one thing. Now, the highest dose of Tirzepatide with our pharmacy is 75 units, which means that is 0.75 ml, right? So 2.5 mLs, that's like that. I mean, that is, you're taking, that would be in all essence, you're taking almost 3 weeks of medication in one dose and no weight loss. I think the group and everybody here can kind of put a little bit of 2 and 2 together on that one. 0 weight loss at 3 times the dose. You need to go back
to your provider
one and figure out where things went wrong.
She very could, well, because I know that this is a common error, because we're not doctors and stuff, so we don't. And so it's probably 0.25, because I know that that's kind of a standard dose is, 0.12, 125, and then 0.25. So
but to do it on a syringe, 0.25 would, I mean, that would be like a fingernail's worth, right? Like,
right.
Yeah, you'd be like, what am I doing here, right?
So Mounjaro's not dosed that way.
The one thing that it would be good to teach everybody here is in units, right? So units,
right.
An insulin syringe is 1 ml.
Right.
It's 1 ml, or we're just going to call it 100 units, right?
There you go.
It's easy to do that. So it's 100 units per ml.
So
that's why, yeah, if you're taking 2.5 mLs, that's megadose.
Right. So she's probably taking 0.25. So
yeah, we'd have that's someone that we should probably inquire. Those are questions that you come to us right away, and we will write that ship pretty quickly.
So yeah, this next lady said 15 milligrams is the top dose, and she's on 10 milligrams. So once we've already discussed here, that's like months worth of medication. So I think
if you're taking, I kind of want to do something here just so we can miss, and maybe it's not mLs, right? But let's teach the group. Let's teach the group something. Let me show you what 10 mLs is.
Oh, a big, huge barrel of syringe, I bet. Yep. Yeah, and try to do that subcutaneously. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
So this is what we utilize with TellewellnessMD, right? You could see 20 units, 30 units, 40 units. That's 1 ml. 10 mLs would be that much medication. That is no. So, okay. Just so everybody can see this from a visual standpoint.
Right.
That's why we have to know that dosing is correct, because things can go sideways really quick.
So with the insulin syringe there, chances are it's, they're on 15 or 10 or 25 on that.
Yeah, so you could understand. You see 20, now you see 10.
Right.
Now that would be 2.5, right? Like that's where we have to really get into, like, so the Mounjaro starts off at 15 units, After 4 weeks, it goes to 30 units. And we rarely see people at 75 units. We like to keep people at 30 and 15.
Awesome.
We'll dive more into that.
I was going to say that's something else that we do want to talk about in one of our calls is about the microdosing or the lower dosing.
Yeah, that's where we start hitting our goals. Now what do we do?
Right.
Absolutely. That's a very, very valid question. And I think it would be very beneficial to teach people that everyone's like, well, I want to get off of it. I want to get off of it. Yeah, right. Yeah, but you have to understand that I know that Columbia University, MIT, Stanford, NYU, Harvard, and a few other ones that are looking at keeping people on this dose, not for weight loss, not for diabetes, but Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer. I'm happy to stay on 15 units to make sure I don't literally fade into the background when I lose my mind with dementia or Alzheimer's, right? You literally have no idea. You disappear because you don't even know who you are anymore.
Right. And the people that love you are left with. So, and that is one of the questions in here is, you know, how do you get off? I mean, I have some that they're at their goal weight or they're fastly approaching their goal weight and they want to know what's next. So just a brief, and then we will go into what's next in another video.
Absolutely. The way that works is you start to titrate off. What you don't do is just go cold turkey. That is a bad idea. Like with everything, you just can't quit it. What you do is, let's just say you're at 50 units, right? The next week you're going to go to 40. The next week you're going to go to 30. The next week you're going to go to 20, so on and so forth. But that's something that for those of you that do, whoever does move forward with obviously with you and Lenita, as this is your group and we're here to help you and back you, we would help you with that transition off if that is your end goal. We will try to kind of convince you or persuade you to look at the long-term benefits. Now, on that same token, yes, this is a pricey medication, but you get to your goal weight, you could take it down where that medication will last you not 1 month, it will last you 4 months for the same price. And knowing that you are preventing Alzheimer's, dementia, cardiovascular disease, and cancer, because that's where these drugs are being investigated right now. The addiction's already coming up. The cardiovascular disease studies were with the GLP-1s like Semaglutide from 3 years ago. And they're coming out with this being like, yeah, no, this is good. This is real good. And it's very exciting. For those of you that have been on it and that are on it, you can see the difference. It's not a joke.
Interesting. So hot flashes, let's see, I get hot flashes a few days after each shot, especially the first day. Is this normal? And are people getting headaches? Those are two different questions, but.
So the hot flashes I have not heard of. That hot flashes, as we all could sit here and think, is it screams very hormonal.
That's what I'm thinking.
Hormones. Now headaches, yes and no. Now the thing is does the medication cause a headache? No. It's what are you doing while on the medication that can. You don't eat for 3 days. You better goddamn believe your head's going to hurt after a while, right? Your body's going to be, all right, I was cool after a day, but like 3 is just a little much. Remember too, is our brain relies on glucose and only glucose, right? So when we just have body fat, it's called gluconeogenic. A big word, gluconeo, like neo from neogenesis, the creation of new blood sugar from body fat. Is a very, very inefficient way of getting glucose. It's very, very low yielding, and that's the only thing your brain takes for fuel. So it becomes we are our own worst enemy when we don't follow the script.
Exactly, and follow the program. Last question here, and Ashley, this will probably be on your end because you and I know. Any idea why California can't get compounded semaglutide now, and will that change? And it's not, it's California, and we know.
Yeah. I'm not sure of the exact regulations, but I know it's something with the state of California, and pharmacies are have a hard time getting a license to ship to California, outside pharmacies in other states. I think if you're a pharmacy within California, you can ship to California, but it's really hard to find a telehealth pharmacy in the state that is licensed to ship to people in California.
Got it. So, and that's because of California legislation, California laws with, because I think what just recently California passed a law with no injectables at all being shipped into the state. And so that's where.
Yeah, it's backwards, but like the thing is the FDA is the federal, right? It's a federal agency.
Yeah.
But just gonna slap the hands of California? That's something that everybody on this call should start. What's going on here, people? Everywhere else can do it, but we can't. Yeah, the government kind of screwed you guys on that one.
Yeah, living in California. Yeah, there's lots of others. So lots of other lovely things about California.
Yeah. There's a lot going on, but the reality is we don't know what we do not know. I just don't see this being like a forever thing, because eventually people will revolt.
Right.
And when they start feeling that, then they'll be like, oh, okay, sorry.
And didn't you say that there's also legal stuff that's already in the works with different things about, just with the FDA and their rulings and pharmacies and all of that? I mean, it's not just, okay, we're done, we're not doing it anymore. It's no, the pharmacies are fighting back and in trying
Yeah,
to.
the bigger pharmacies that we work with have legal teams already being like, no, we're not stopping anything because we know the law. If you have a small compounding pharmacy that doesn't have the money to back it with a big law firm, all pharma has to do is look at you and you evaporate, because we got to remember too, by 2030, this will be $100 billion a year market just for GLP-1s, just for one medication. Do you know that GLP-1s in the United States by 2030 at $100 billion is more than half the world's country make? An entire country is what we're going to consume just on GLP-1s alone per year in the US. So yeah, no, things will start to rattle out. It's just when. And they're starting to, people that are looking, that are very curious about this. If you see, I posted that on TellewellnessMD today, actually on Bloomberg,
Right.
where the Costco and Walmart are up in arms because nobody's buying anything for Thanksgiving, and they're like, oh no, God forbid you buy 8 different types of pies. Like, Jesus. like let's complain about, like, come on.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, I think this was a very, very good introduction to GLP-1s and GIP-1s. That's the Tirzepatide, the Mounjaro, and now we have a little bit more background on the Semaglutide, how they work, the do's and the don'ts. I talking to the audience here, our next call, I want to dive deeper into what we talked about with a little bit more scientific basis to it. And then let's get you come out live and let's ask some real questions, some real life questions. And then at that point, we could tell you more about how we operate and how we could help you, how we could help all of you.
Perfect. Well, I thank you guys so much for your time. I know this is going to be really valuable because I've been reading all the comments, and there's just not a really good source of information about this, and they're all over the place. And I really want to add value and teach and coach so that everyone can be healthy and successful. So I appreciate your time and effort.
No, thank you for having us. Our main role is to shed the light of truth on these things, because it's been shrouded in confusing medical jargon to make people it's this fear tactic on, oh, you're going to take this and you're going to blow up. Like, no. If you don't eat an entire large pizza right when you start eating, or right when you start GLP-1s, you're not going to get gastroparesis. Your stomach's not going to lock up. You eat a bag of cement, yeah, you're going to have problems. But these are kind of common sense things that we will help out by creating a proper program that will show the do's and the don'ts. Like that's what we need to have. We have to have a guidelines to this is how we do this, and that's what we're gonna keep showing you.
That, and in our next call, because one of the things I want to go over is, because it is going to be individual for each person, of like how many calories and grams of protein each individual person got, roundabout should be consuming each day, because that's huge. Because
It's and the thing is too, that's very important. But to tell everybody, that's step 10, right? The great thing is, in the first week, all you have to worry about, the only thing you have to worry about is making sure that you get one protein-based meal a day, that you supplement and you move and you're hydrated. You do those things, you're golden. And then week 2, we go a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole. And week 3 and week 4, it's just if somebody came to me and said, I need you to do these 10 things different tomorrow, I would be like, are you out of your mind? But if you tell me, look, you do this one thing and I promise you're going to be successful, not a problem. Not a problem at all. Done.
So wonderful. Well, we're going to go ahead and close this one, and then we'll be reconvening next week. And
let's do it. Let's do it. Looking forward to the next call.
Thank you all so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. There we go. Stop recording.